Welcome to the 50th episode of Kamikaze Overdrive MMA Predictions. Hence the tie in the shirt. I'm going to go formal for the event because it is my 50th show. And on the show, I'm going to be covering UFC on Fox, the second installment. It'll take place on January 28th on Free TV. And I'm going to talk about that eventually, but I've got a couple other things I want to address. The other night, UFC on FX, I went 6-1. It was a fantastic night. Made myself some money. More importantly than my 6-1, the fourth round, the tournament semifinals, the Grand Prix prediction tournament semifinals wrapped up. And talk about two tight matchups between four very good, knowledgeable MMA people. On one side of the bracket, Klubal of the United States defeated Scotland's Marksman 52-51. Very tight matchup. Klubal's into the finals. On the other side, Kane Gotti of Australia, who eliminated Kamikaze Overdrive in the third round on a tiebreaker, took on the White Dragon. That matchup ended 45-45. We went to the tiebreaker, and Kane Gotti got the win again. The first tiebreaker being most correct predictions. He won that 9-7. So Klubal and Kane Gotti will meet in the finals. Marksman and the White Dragon will meet in the consolation round. It'll be 4 events we're going to touch on for this, and you can check out more to see later on what those 4 events are. It's the next 4. Obviously, this is the first one. Before getting into a couple other things, my sponsors, I'd like to thank them as always. MMABettingOdds.com, MMA Crips, thank you for hosting my videos, and as always, Couchfighter.co. Thank you very much for hosting my videos as well. A couple really cool websites. Please check all of them out. I'm always grateful for all the fan support and support I receive from them. Now, on a different wavelength, I will be scaling back Kamikaze Overdrive. Not right away, but in the near future. I've got some things coming up in my life that are just supersede the attention I can put into my videos. I'm probably still going to cover all events. I won't do quite as many predictions. As you saw last night, I cut some for UFC on FX, and I might actually do a show like this that'll cover 2 or 3 events, so I'm done. I can do 1 month's worth of fighting in one show. Now, connected to that, some of you, if you're watching my video, have probably heard either my name or Kamikaze Overdrive talked about in other videos in reference to a situation. I'm not going to give voice to that situation because... And now, again, I haven't gone out and watched these people's videos. The reason I know it's being talked about is, first and foremost, they messaged me, and the manner in which they messaged me, the language they use in those messages, leads me to believe they intend to slander me because they said they were going to. And secondly, I had other people, somebody commented on my last video, meaning either they've made a separate account and are going to, spam my videos, or they're talking about it in their videos, and then people are hearing and then writing on mine. As intelligent human beings, and I know my viewers are, please recognize there are 2 sides to every story, and I'm a professional, and I try to at least be professional. I would never, ever single out an individual, or at least it would take a lot to make me single out an individual and air my dirty laundry in public. So you're not going to hear me talk about the people that are talking about me, and the way I look at it is this. They must not be nearly as comfortable in their opinion or viewpoint in the situation that they need to go out and say things. And I feel pretty good about my side and where I stand, so I'm not going to go about saying what it is and talking about and pointing fingers. But interesting thing came as a result of this. Got some messages, and they were very threatening and used very aggressive language. And at first, I got all fired up about it, and then I realized I'm an adult, and I don't live in the world where people can threaten me, especially online. Like, come on. But they said they're going to spam, like, these people threatened, this person actually threatened to spam my video. Somebody else actually tried. I blocked them. Duh. But they're going to spam my videos. They're going to expose me for the terrible predictor I am. They didn't say terrible. I can't say, because I know kids watch this, or I hope kids watch this. I can't say I can't say what they said on here. But they're going to expose me for the poor predictor that I am and the poor human being, and they made fun of things and said some nasty, nasty things. But paraphrasing, they basically vowed to destroy me, and I thought I didn't know how to react to this, because in the world I live in, or at least the adult world, you don't hear this very often. You hear it in fictional land, stuff like WWE and comic books, people vowing to destroy you. I'm going to, end you. And it just leads me to wonder, what don't you have going on in your life that you need to attack someone and talk about someone in a manner that is probably skewed a little bit to make you look better and them look worse? Either way, I just think I'm not going to give voice to the idiocy that is the situation. And if they actually have a plan to ruin me and are going to feel better by clicking the thumbs down video, which I know they did last time, and encouraging people to come over to my videos and comment, go for it. Good for you. I really don't know how to address this. If I was going to match them based on the way they wrote me and handle it in a manner on the same level, I guess I'd have to take it into one of my grade 9 classes, grade 10 classes, put it up on the overhead and say, guys, how would you respond to this? Because then they'd probably come up with some pretty good stuff to say back. But I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to lower myself to that level. And if they do destroy me, congratulations, that's fantastic. That's enough of this. I'm not going to talk about this again. I'm not going to be provoked. I'm not going to watch their video, so it's going to be awfully hard to provoke me in that sense. So good for them. I hope they can move on. I certainly have after this video, because I'm not going to talk about it again. And I think it's time to get past the silliness. Let's go to the first set of predictions for the prelims. Alright, and quickly, before I get into my preliminary picks, I put a lot of work into my predictions. I've got a ton of notes, I watch a ton of footage, I do obviously a lot of work on the graphics and overall video presentation, and I like to try and generate a little bit of income from my overall work. So what I'm saying is, if you intend on gambling and betting and you'd like a little bit of input in the actual potential parlays and betting combinations of the predictions I make, check out the description below, and there'll be more details there, but a small contribution. I'm not saying I'm going to make anybody a ton of money or any money at all. You never know. All you have to do is win once based on the betting options I'm going to give you, and you'll be well ahead of the game, because I'm not asking for much in return. If you're interested, that's fine. If you're not, that's fine as well. Now, let's get to the preliminary picks. And the opening fight, Joey Beltran versus LeVar Johnson. This is actually my certified overdrive fight of the night. And now it is a risk taking a fight like this. It kicks off. It's a preliminary fight. But I'm guessing this fight could pay 10 to 1 or better to be fight of the night. So a $10 bet on that could get you $100, maybe $150 return potentially. I don't know what the odds are going to be. But it's certainly worth it. It's a risk, but I think it's a worthwhile endeavor. Now, Joey Beltran versus LeVar Johnson. This fight is going to be a scrap. Both men are going through a tough span in their respective careers, but they always come to fight. Beltran has proven almost unable to be stopped, but if you are a technical striker, you can get the better of him. But I think, on the other hand, Johnson will oblige Beltran with his scrappy, tough style, but he will wilt as the fight progresses and probably end up on his back. I'll take Beltran by TKO. Up next, Michael Johnson versus Shane Roller. Roller got manhandled his last fight, and Johnson got submitted. Both are coming off defeats. Both are wrestlers, but this could be actually a striking battle. But at the same time, I think Roller might actually look to exploit the fact that Johnson has been submitted 5 times. I'll take Roller by submission. Next up, Charles Oliveira versus Eric Wisely. Oliveira's making his debut at featherweight, which I think is a better all-around division for him if he can make the weight cut well. Wisely's debuting. He fought in Strikeforce, took on and lost to Pat Healy. I think Oliveira will utilize his size advantage here, and I'll take Charles Oliveira by submission. Up next, Cub Swanson versus George Roop. Roop looked very good against Hatsu Hayoki, but lost a close decision. Look for Roop to use a significant height advantage to dictate the range and his grappling to control Cub on the ground. I'll take George Roop by decision. Johnny Bedford versus Mitch Gagnon. Bedford enters this bout with a significant height advantage, and in his last fight he utilized a very similar edge quite effectively. Gagnon has won all 8 of his career victories by submission, while Bedford has had issues with being tapped out, dropping 8 of his 9 losses by that method. I'll take the lesser-known Canadian Mitch Gagnon to use his wrestling and submit Johnny Bedford. Moving to the heavyweights now, John Olavinamo versus Mike Russo. Mike Russo has a nice little run going right now, 10 wins in a row. He's a wrestler by trade and has won over half of his fights by submission. Inamo's going to have a huge size advantage, and the Norwegian is a BJJ black belt training out of Golden Glory, so his striking is a little bit better than most might perceive. His fight with Dave Herman was crazy. I think he has more tools than his opponent. I'm going to take Inamo by submission in this fight. Finally, Evan Dunham versus Nick Lentz. In Lentz's last fight, he ran into a superior grappler and was stymied, and is now faced with another pretty good guy on the ground in Dunham. Now, Dunham has superior striking and has experience fighting decent wrestlers and grapplers like Tyson Griff and Marcus Aurelio and Sean Shirk, and he fought all these guys with a lot of success. Dunham should be able to dictate the pace of this fight, so I'm going to take him by decision because Nick Lentz is a tough guy to finish. Those are my preliminary picks. Let's get to the main card. In the middleweight division, Chris the All-American Weidman, 7-0, steps up to challenge 15-3 Damian Maia. Now, Weidman has started his UFC career 3-0, while Maia has a UFC record of 9-3. Weidman's taking this fight on short notice, and many feel he's stepping up too early. Maia will have a significant experience advantage, and has faced superior opponents, including arguably the two top middleweights in the UFC and pretty much the world, while the biggest name Weidman has faced so far is Alessio Sakara, and that's not a knock on Sakara. Now, this matchup could produce a technical series of grappling exchanges. Maia is arguably the most talented BJJ practitioner in the entire company, with 8 career submission wins, including 5 to start his UFC career. His most impressive win was against Chael Sonnen, when he executed a modified lateral drop and transitioned directly into a fight-ending triangle choke. Now, Weidman, on the other hand, is a product of the Sarah Longo fight team, and he was an NCAA All-American wrestler, defeating both Ryan Bader and Phil Davis during his career. He has 3 career submission victories, 2 in the UFC, including putting Tom Lawler to sleep in his last appearance. He has completed 7 of his last 10 takedown attempts, and his top control and ability to pass is quite impressive. Weidman is a BJJ purple belt, and combined with his wrestling skills, it makes him very difficult for anyone to handle on the mat. Now, Maia, on the other hand, he doesn't complete a high percentage of takedowns at 32%. He will dive on his opponent's lead leg and either trip them or turn the corner, pulling them to the mat. Now, he will pull guard, and if his opponent sprawls, Damian will use the underhooks to control the upper body, and then he scoots his legs forward and pulls them into his guard, which many people don't see coming when he does this. Maia hasn't submitted an opponent in 7 fights, but during that span, he has faced 5 BJJ black belts and a very powerful wrestler in Mark Munoz. Now, during that run, fighters have shown the key to avoiding being submitted is to focus exclusively on defense instead of trying to attack Maia on the ground. Now, Munoz was the first fighter to actually go to the mat with Maia and emerge victorious. Now, he did find himself on the defensive and in trouble on multiple occasions, but for the most part he had success because instead of attempting to match technique with the Brazilian, he used brute force and bullied him. Now, if Weidman's going to emerge victorious in the ground battle, he will need to keep things very simple and limit the openings that Maia can capitalize on. Comparing their overall striking technique, both guys have decent skills, but nothing overly flashy. Damian's striking has been improving since he started training with Vanderlei Silva. He was aggressive against Munoz in the opening round, pushing the action and stalking his opponent. Weidman, on the other hand, uses a left jab and backs it up with a very powerful right hand, and he has some decent leg kicks. He's an athlete, so that should be expected. He's going to have a 6-inch reach advantage over his opponent, which will be important if he wants to keep the fight standing. Overall, I like the improvements that Maia has made with his striking, and if he gets the better of Weidman, it will force the All-American to take the fight to where Damian is an even more accomplished fighter. I anticipate that Weidman is actually going to be drawn into a grappling match and attempt to match Maia move for move, which will be a mistake. So I like the betting underdog in this scenario. I'll take Damian Maia to defeat Chris Weidman by submission, and if you intend to bet on this fight, get it in ASAP because the line's probably going to change as bell time draws closer. In the co-main event of the night, Chael Sonnen, 27-11-1, meets Michael the Count Bisping, 23-3. Sonnen has won 4 of his last 5, while Bisping is riding a 4-fight winning streak with 8 wins in his last 10. Now, the winner of this matchup will find themselves challenging for the middleweight title in their next trip to the Octagon against the reigning champ Anderson Silva. Sonnen was a successful collegiate wrestler, and he took it to the next level as a Greco-Roman Olympic alternate. Conversely, Michael Bisping's forte is his technical striking. He has 14 TKO victories. His speed and total volume of punches landed, which ranks him at 4.83 per minute, makes him very hard to match on the feet for any striker. Now, he doesn't have the one-punch knockout power of a Vitor Belfort, but the majority of his wins come in the form of death by accumulation. He's going to have a 2-inch reach advantage, which will help him to create distance, and this is very important against a grappler like Chael Sonnen. Now, Sonnen showcased some of his best stand-up against Anderson Silva, landing a few surprising shots, even appearing to hurt the champ. Now, a portion of this bout will be spent on the feet. Overall, I give Bisping the advantage, but the decisive moments will take place both in the clinch and on the ground. If the Brit is able to defend the takedowns and create separation when Chael tries to clinch with him, he will negate all of the wrestler's biggest advantages. But Chael is difficult to defend for even the most seasoned grappler. Sonnen completes just over 4 takedowns per fight, landing 63% of his attempts. Sonnen smothers his opponent both in the clinch and on the mat, picking up 15 decision victories. Most notable examples of Sonnen's absolute dominance on the ground were his wins over Nate Marquardt and Yushin Okami, and even in his defeat against Anderson Silva, where Sonnen just kept his opponent on their back for the duration of the fight. His top control is simply exhausting, as he forces his adversary to constantly defend and expend a great amount of energy. In his last appearance, he put his submission skills on display. He submitted Brian Stann with an arm triangle. On the negative side of things, Sonnen has been tapped out 8 times, which accounts for 73% of his defeats. Bisping has an improving guard, but overall his submission game I don't think is where it needs to be in order to threaten Chael. Bisping completes 53% of his own takedowns, but I don't anticipate him shooting on Sonnen, but his takedown defense ranks in at an impressive 64%. Bisping has proven difficult to take down, and he's taken on his share of skilled grapplers like Jason and Dan Miller, who combined for 2 for 15 in takedown attempts. But going back further against wrestling-based grapplers and Matt Hamill and Rashad Evans, he was taken down a total of 12 times. Now, I wasn't overly impressed with Bisping when he was put on his back by Jason Miller, as the Brit just seemed to be neutralized when Miller got on top. Chael Sonnen is easily the best wrestler in the division and will be able to match Bisping's cardio level. He looked very impressive finishing Brian Stann, and I expect the same here. So my prediction is Chael Sonnen to defeat Michael Bisping by submission. In the main event of the evening, Sugar Rashad Evans, 21-1-1, will take on 9-0 Mr. Wonderful Phil Davis. Evans has won 3 in a row with a UFC record of 11-1-1, while Davis has won 5 fights to start his Octagon career. Just like our co-main event, this matchup could determine the next title contender in this division. Rashad Evans' dominant performance against Tito Ortiz showed that leaving Greg Jackson's camp didn't have a negative effect on his overall performance. Both men are primarily wrestlers, each completing roughly 50% of their takedown attempts. Evans averages 4.45 and Davis 3.37 takedowns per fight. In reality, this is the first time that either man has faced a wrestler of this caliber. Davis is the more accomplished collegiate athlete, but Rashad has had a longer MMA career competing at a higher level of competition. One considerable difference between the two is that Evans has progressed as a striker, allowing him to mix up his attack, while Davis still relies heavily on his wrestling. Davis has earned wins either by decision, where he controlled his opponent on the ground, or by submission, which again was facilitated by his superior ground skills. The vulnerability in his game plan was partially exposed by Little Nog, where he was able to defend 7 of Davis's 11 takedown attempts. By doing this, the playing field was leveled significantly, as the dominant wrestler was forced to rely on his still developing striking skills. On the feet, Davis uses heavy leg kicks, which helps him to maintain distance, and his hands are still fairly basic and stiff. Davis' striking is his weak point, but this guy's an unbelievable athlete who's more than capable of developing a stand-up, and we haven't seen him since early 2011, so he has had plenty of time to do so. Now, Rashad Evans' striking has been put on display several times in the cage, most notably when he knocked out Chuck Liddell. Evans is fast, he uses a lot of movement, attacking with all of his weapons. Against Tito, he finished him with an absolutely brutal knee to the sternum that was preceded by a series of strikes, both hand and elbow, that forced Ortiz to cover up. Another major disparity that exists between the two combatants is that we really have yet to see Davis face any adversity in his career. His fight against Little Nog wasn't as easy as his past performances, but for the most part he wasn't in much danger, while Evans has had to deal with difficult scenarios before. Now, Rashad has relied on his wrestling as the focal point of his offense in past fights, but in this matchup he will need to use his grappling in reverse to keep the fight standing. I really don't anticipate either guy being overly effective off their back, and I would be a little surprised to see Rashad shoot on Davis at least early on. If Davis proves to be the better MMA wrestler and can repeatedly take Sugar down, he should be able to win this fight. Subsequently, if Rashad can defend the takedown, it's his fight to win. This is kind of a tough matchup to call. Both guys are capable of winning this fight. For me, it comes down to a battle of a fighter with fantastic wrestling against a fighter with very good wrestling and the superior striking. Davis did take a couple shots against Nogueira, but if Evans tests his chin cleanly, Mr. Wonderful could be in trouble. This is a 5-round bout between two very talented competitors, and I'm really looking forward to this matchup, and my prediction is Rashad Evans to defeat Phil Davis by TKO. Now, for Kamikaze Countdown, I originally had talked about I was going to come on here and bash Sports Interaction because our arrangement had ended. I'm going to take the high road. Just like any other book, they are a betting online site. They, have their good points, their bad points. If you're thinking about signing up with them, send me a message. I've been dealing with them. I've had good relations and bad relations. I'll give you an honest opinion if you're going to considering signing up with them. Send me a message and we'll chat. Now, what I want to do quickly is talk about UFC on FX. I thought it was a pretty good overall show. I enjoyed it. The fights were fantastic. My record was good, but that's not what I want to address here. The presentation was fantastic. One thing I'd like to see them improve is the in-fight clock. I think that was a little simplistic. I'd like to see them maybe add a little bit more to it. But the overall Fox feel of things really gives it a little bit of that professional sports appeal. The play-by-play guys, Kenny Florian and John Ankin, the name is escaping me at the moment. I felt they sounded almost a little bit too similar, so it's hard to pick up, but I'm sure we'll get used to not hearing Goldie and Rogan all the time. I did like how they had a separate group with Stephan Bonner upstairs that was doing the post-fight breakdowns on each, because it gives you kind of a little bit of variety in who you're listening to. Overall, I would give the presentation like a B+. I think there's still a couple things they need to improve upon. There are a couple little glitches here and there, but definitely a good start in the right direction. Fantastic set of fights to expose the general public to, and I think this UFC on Fox card is going to just take it to the next level again, and I think the deal's off on the right foot. Thank you for listening, Kamikaze Countdown. Alright, so those are my predictions for the second installment of UFC on Fox. I'm going to keep it short. Thank you very much to all my sponsors, MMABettingOdds.com, MMACrips.com, and CouchFighter.co. Thank you for hosting my videos to all those sites. Again, congratulations to Klubal and Kane Gotti for making the tournament finals. Get your picks in for that, as well as Marksman and White Dragon. Nothing to hang your heads about. Excellent competitors. You're going at it in the consolation round, so again, put your picks in as well. I'll send you emails out for that. If you are interested in the scenario I talked about before, if you're going to do some betting and would like a little bit more insight into the betting aspects of this card, check out the YouTube description, and I will explain. Go to the YouTube page, check out the description, and follow the instructions there, and we'll go from there. If you're not, that's fine. I just thought I'd attempt something. We'll see how successful it is. Either way, I'm coming off a pretty good UFC on FX card at 6-1, and I think it's generally speaking, UFC on Fox is going to be an exciting event. I look forward to it muchly. Thank you for watching Kamikaze Overdrive. As always, I look forward to the comments, and I will see you back here for UFC 143, another fantastic event. Thanks for watching.